for not minding the move. We do appreciate the breeze. Welcome to First Parish in Milton, Unitarian Universalist. My name is Melinda Collins, and I'm a member of the Worship Committee. If you're new to us, welcome. If you're a little better known, welcome also. Your presence makes the sanctuary of nature holy. I'm going to dispense with a lot of what we usually say. I think that we're all relatively comfortable, and this is a good time to greet one another, so please.
Spirit of truth, of life, of power, we bring ourselves as gifts to thee. Oh, bind our hearts this sacred hour in faith and hope and charity. One more time. Spirit of truth, of life, of power, we bring ourselves as gifts to thee. Oh, bind our hearts this sacred hour in faith and hope and charity.
Traditionally, we have a young person from the congregation light the chalice. Would anybody care to do that?
Me?
Una? You can, but you don't have to.
All right, Una.
Please join me in the call to worship. Come, let us gather.
We gather to celebrate the sacred within and among us. We come to seek spiritual growth and understanding. We strive to practice acceptance, forgiveness, and love. Together we work to build a world with justice and compassion. Come, let us gather together.
This morning's reading is Celestial Music by Louise Gluck. I have a friend who still believes in heaven. Not a stupid person, yet with all she knows, she literally talks to God. She thinks that someone listens in heaven. On earth, she's unusually competent, brave too, able to face unpleasantness. We found a caterpillar dying in the dirt, greedy ants crawling over it. I'm always moved by disaster, always eager to oppose vitality. But timid also, quick to shut my eyes. Whereas my friend was able to watch, to let events play out according to nature. For my sake, she intervened, brushing a few ants off the torn thing, and set it across the road. My friend says I shut my eyes to God, that nothing else explains my aversion to reality. She says I'm like a child who buries her head in the pillow so as not to see. The child who tells herself that light causes sadness. My friend is like a mother, patient, urging me to wake up an adult like herself, a courageous person. In my dreams, my friend reproaches me. We're walking on the same road, except it's winter now. She's telling me that when you love a road, you hear celestial music. Look up, she says. in the trees, like brides leaping to a great height. Then I'm afraid for her. I see her caught in a net, deliberately cast over the earth. In reality, we sit by the side of the road watching the sunset. From time to time, the silence, pierced by a bird. It's this moment we're trying to explain. The fact that we're at ease with death, with solitude. My friend draws a circle in the dirt. Inside, the caterpillar doesn't move. She's always trying to make something whole, something beautiful, an image capable of life apart from herself. Quiet. It's peaceful sitting here, not speaking. The composition fixed. The road turning suddenly dark. The air going cool. Here and there, the rocks shining and glittering. It's this stillness we both love. The love of form is a love of endings.
This past week has been devoted, more than anything, to picking wild black raspberries. There are 2 patches near my house. Each day I spend at least an hour filling quart-sized plastic containers with the purple seedy fruit. It is a laborious process, requires careful attention. I wear long pants and short sleeves. The pants protect my legs and allow me to step into the middle of a bramble. The short sleeves let me maneuver my arms without getting caught by the thorns. Unfortunately, short sleeves offer little protection, and this morning I am something of a mess of abrasions. The effort, though, is worthwhile. When else but during wild berry season can I eat and feed my family? Whole, greedy fistfuls of delicate fruit. My mother has a delightful raspberry sauce recipe, and I have made and frozen as much of it as possible. When winter comes, there will be a sweet, tart taste of wild summer waiting. I'm not telling you this to make you jealous. I imagine there are brambles in abundance here in Milton. I realize that picking berries is not everyone's idea of fun. You have to be seriously dedicated to your own food, gathering your own food, to brave a maze of thorn-induced hash marks on your skin. I'm talking about picking wild black raspberries because gathering them is an activity that requires absolute presence of mind. There, through that shaded twist of primrose lie 4 dozen perfect fruit. How to get to them. How to navigate the primrose and then the bramble. Where to put my feet. Where to move my arms. How many to pull from the stem. Is this one right? Does that one have mold? Be present in the moment. It is a cliche, but like most cliches, it contains more than a kernel of truth. As the neuroscientist, race car driver, particle physicist, rock star, and Buddhist Buckaroo Banzai says in the cult movie of the same name, wherever you go, there you are. This present moment is the only one we have. Now, as you may know, I'm serving as a sort of summer minister here for the next month, leading Sunday services and providing whatever pastoral care coverage is needed. And during our time together, I'm going to be exploring Unitarian Universalism as a religion of presence. By that I mean that Unitarian Universalism is a religion that calls us to be present to the moment, to each other, to justice, and to the holy. Each week, the service will be organized around a question relating to one of these 4 kinds of presence. This week, I ask, what does it mean to be present to the moment? Now, I'm not intending on actually answering my questions. Instead, I hope to provoke you to think about them. Religious questions are not easy, and in the end it is each of us who must find our own answers. What it means for me to be present in a moment will be different than what it means for you, for the simple fact that we are different people. This is actually one of the great claims of our religious tradition, that theological reflection begins with personal experience. Each of us has a different set of experiences, so each of us constructs a slightly different theology from them. Now, this might be a call for relativism, so we'll have to wrestle with the relativistic angel a little later and understand that the truth that we find is at least somewhat subjective without devolving into a sort of moral relativism. But that's something I'm going to attend to later in our sermon series. So in the meantime, I ask that you simply suspend whatever disbelief you might have and imagine that it is possible. To aid in this suspension of disbelief, much of my preaching over the next month is going to focus on parables. There's actually two reasons for this. First, people respond better to stories, and parables are a form of story than they do to more abstract discourse. Second, theology itself takes place at three levels. First, there's the personal experience. We have an experience that we need to make sense of. I am confronted with an abundance of wild black raspberries. The second level is that of the parable, the stories we tell to each other and to ourselves about our experiences. I describe to you my berry picking activity. The third is that which theologians call systematics or dogmatics. I compare my narrative and experience of berry picking with the narratives of others and try to distill some religious truth from the resulting mess. Parables are often more provocative than the systematic theology they inspire. Parables can be interpreted variously, systematics having a tendency to appear more fixed. There's a Buddhist story that you may know that I find helpful when thinking about this relationship. Many years ago, in some distant land, a young woman came across a group of monks standing on a top of a hill. They were all standing with their arms outstretched and their index fingers pointing to the sky. The moon was crystalline, the stars were softly brilliant. The woman stared at the monk's arm for a long, long time until one of them finally turned to her and said, "Never mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself." The sight of the moon was experience. Whatever the words were that the monks shared amongst themselves to describe it or used in their mind were like parables. The finger was like the refined word of systematic theology. It can only point to the moon. It must never be mistaken for the moon itself. Words are symbols. They represent something rather than are something. The further we move from pure language or toward pure language and away from the experience itself, the easier it becomes to stray from whatever religious truth we seek. Parables, of course, are not immune to a diversity of interpretations, but because they are stories about experiences, they point us in a direction that more abstract theology cannot. The theologian Sally McTeague suggests that the parabolic possibility is not do as I do, but see what I am, and then enter into your own soul and discover your direction, your master form, your center, and your focus. This is undoubtedly why so much of the world's great religious literature takes the form of parables. Great religious leaders, too, have long been fond of them. Jesus was a master parable maker, and the Gospels, whether canonical or non-canonical, present his life as a form of parable. The parable of the Good Samaritan is perhaps one of the best known of his parables. Here it is as found in the Gospel of Luke. A man was on his way from Jerusalem down to Jericho when he was set upon by robbers, who stripped and beat him and went off, leaving him half dead. It so happened that a priest was going down by the same road, and when he saw him, he went past on the other side. So too, a Levite came to the place, and when he saw him, went past on the other side. But a Samaritan who was going that way came upon him, and when he saw him, he was moved to pity. He went up, bandaged his wounds, bathed them with oil and wine. Then he took him on to his own beast, brought him to an inn, and looked after him. Next day he produced 2 silver pieces and gave them to the innkeeper, and said, "Look after him, and if you spend more, I will repay you on my way back." All of Jesus' parables, this one included, can be variously interpreted. The author of Luke suggests that an interpretation of it by having Jesus tell it in response to the question, "But who is my neighbor?" Whoever wrote Luke closes the parable with another rhetorical question. Which of these three do you think was the neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? Jesus' questioner answered, "The one who showed him kindness," to which Jesus replied, "Go and do as he did." While the parable is clearly about compassion to the stranger, I suggest it contains another layer. It challenges us to be present to the pain of the world that surrounds us. The Samaritan is present to that pain. The priest and the Levite both try to avoid it. When they see the man lying on the side of the road, they cross over to the other side. The Samaritan chooses not to ignore the pain. Rather than avoiding it, he engages with it. To be present to the moment means not only to be present to the moment of pleasures in our lives, it means to be present to all of it, the pain, the sorrow, the suffering, and the joy and the delight. I would be a liar if I were to say that I was always succeeded in being present to the pain. I follow the example of the priest and the Levite on almost a daily basis. Harvard Square is filled with people asking for money and other forms of assistance. I rarely engage them. It almost always seems inconvenient to do so. I'm in a hurry, I have to get to class, I do not want to give someone money. The parable of the Good Samaritan stands as a rebuke of my own behavior, and it reminds me that to be present to the moment, then I must be present to the suffering of others. And I must learn to do that even when it is inconvenient. The Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh is one of the best known contemporary teachers of the practice of being present in a moment. Buddhists in his tradition call this practice mindfulness. Nhat Hanh encourages us to be mindful not only when confronted with suffering or with joy, but when moving through the banal routines of life. He offers this advice about washing dishes. If, while you are washing dishes, we think only of the cup of tea that awaits us, thus hurrying to get the dishes out of the way as if they were a nuisance, then we are not washing the dishes to wash the dishes. What's more, we are not alive during the time we are washing the dishes. For if we cannot wash the dishes, what are the chances we will be able to drink our tea either? Occupying something of a midpoint between Nhat Hanh's dishwashing advice and the parable of the Good Samaritan, Louisa Gluck's poem Celestial Music is about the challenge of recognizing the ordinary suffering of nature, the truth that death and pain are all around us, and then remaining present to beauty. In her poem, Gluck, neither Gluck nor anyone she cares about suffers. She and her friend sit by the side of the road and open themselves to the world that surrounds them. Gluck admits that when faced with a caterpillar dying in the dirt, greedy ants crawling over it, she is quick to shut my eyes. Opening her eyes, she is rewarded with watching the sun set, from time to time, the silence pierced by a bird call. Being present brings with it the risk of suffering, but it also contains the possibility of clouds, snow, a white business in the trees like bribes leaping to a great height. Unitarian Universalism is a religious tradition that encourages us not to shut our eyes. For generations, our focus has been on this world rather than on whatever may come next. Our Universalist ancestors, as you may recall, believed that everyone in the end would be reconciled with God. This led them to think, as Gordon McKeeman has put it, we're all going to end up together in heaven, so we might as well start learning to get along now. For our Unitarian ancestors, the emphasis was slightly different. William Ellery Channing claimed that the purpose of religion was to help people grow into what he called the likeness of God. He believed that each person is born with that likeness within them, and that the goal of life is not to be found in the afterlife. It is to be found now, when we come to know the bright image of God inside us. Channing thought that one way we could discover that bright image is by learning to be present to what surrounds us. As he put beautifully in his famous sermon, Likeness to God, How much of God may be seen in the single structure of a leaf, which, though so frail as to tremble in every wind, yet holds connections and living communications with the earth, the air, the clouds, and the distant sun, and through these sympathies with the universe is itself a revelation. The this-worldly focus of Unitarian Universalism means that one of the most important roles for Unitarian Universalist clergy like myself and Unitarian Universalist congregations like this one is to help people to be present to this world. This means encouraging us to revel in each other, to savor what the world offers, and to be open to suffering. Many times I've been told by non-Unitarian Universalists that we do funerals and memorial services exceptionally well. And there is a reason for this. Rather than focusing on the deceased journey after life, we direct our attention to the pain and loss of the living. The call to presence in the present moment is not exclusively or even primarily about pain, nor is it about joy. It is rather about recognizing that the only moment we have is now, and that we must make the most of it, whatever it is. In that spirit, as I prepare to close, I invite you to think about a time when you were truly present. What was it like? What did it feel like in your body? Is that moment now? Or are you recalling some other moment, some distant memory brought forth into your consciousness through the fog of memory? How do you know when you are alive to the present? Are your senses more alive? Is your mind still? What do you need to do to be present? To pay attention to your breathing? To feel this cool air around you? Sense your breath coming in? To sense it going out? I know that I am present when I am concerned with what is only with what is happening now. When I've been picking raspberries, I have been only picking raspberries, not worried about what comes next, what I will be doing later the day, or even what the topic of my sermon for Sunday is. Black raspberry brambles have a delightful trick for helping me stay present. If I slip from the present into the haze of the past or the illusion of the future, I'm almost always rewarded with a small laceration that draws me back into the moment. It's a helpful reminder that wherever my mind may wish to be, there is only the now. There is only the now. As Glusk writes, it is this moment we're both trying to explain. All we really have is this moment. May we learn to be present to it, whatever it brings. Black raspberry brambles, dishes, the suffering of strangers, our own pain, the universe's reflection in a trembling leaf, ecstasy, joy. May it be so. Amen. Blessed be.
And now, I invite you to stand as you are willing and able to sing hymn number 391, Voice Still and Small. Again, I will read the words and then I will sing them. We'll sing them twice. Join in. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing, calming my
Please join with me in the spirit that some call prayer and others call meditation. Close your eyes, open your ears, open your minds, open your hearts. The moment slips from this to the next. We are caught in the eternal now, while history unfolds, while we unfold history, while Egypt, like most of the world, continues to be a site of struggle for democracy, human dignity, for the possible present, while fires rage across the Southwest and communities mourn the firefighter dead, while the United States government persecutes whistleblowers like Edward Snowden as if they were heretics of old, while our lives continue in all of their ordinary beauty, unanticipated frustrations, disappointments, and delights. May we be present to it all. May we have compassion for those who suffer, especially ourselves, and by doing so, ease suffering. May we know joy in the mundane. May we be fully here for as long as we are. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you now to join with me in a time of sacred silence. join with me in saying the unison dedication?
May the experience be transformed into strength for this faith community, into comfort, food, and shelter for those in need, and may we be transformed by thy generosity.
And let's remain standing for our final hymn. Again, in the spirit of our theme today, of being in the moment, we are going to do this without books. So I'm not going to give you a number. Because something different happens. It is in there. Something different happens when we're not looking at our music in terms of being here and in the moment. And this is one that you might have heard here. So I'm just going to ask you to put your hands up like this, close your eyes for a moment, and breathe in a few cycles at your own rhythm. And feel what is over your head right now, what's in your head. And then we'll take a big breath in together and let it out. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I hear clapping in the air. Over my head, I hear clapping in the air. Over my head, I hear clapping in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I hear smiles in the air. Over my head, I hear smiles in the air. Over my head, I hear smiles in the air. There must be a God somewhere. What else now? What else came into your head? What else did you hear? Birds.
The birds.
Birds. Over my head, I hear birds in the air. Over my head, I hear birds in the air. Over my head, I hear birds in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I hear wind in the air. Over my head, I hear wind in the air. Over my head, I hear wind in the air. There must be a God somewhere. One more. Leaves. Over my head, I hear leaves in the air. Over my head, I hear leaves in the air. Over my head, I hear leaves in the air. There must be a God somewhere.
Let us go in the spirit of love, never knowing when or where we may find the divine, yet conscious of the spark within each of us and the unfolding beauty that surrounds us. Go in peace, go in love. May our lives be a blessing. Amen.
I hear drums in the air. You're not off the hook yet. Over my head.